You see the number 28 jerseys on hand by the friends, family members, and former teammates of the Texas legend Freddie Steinmark, as the scoreboard has been rededicated in the honor of that man that has motivated so many Texas players since his days as a star here on the 40 acres.
Freddie Steinmark. He was kind of the smaller guy, and didn't really get a lot of looks coming out of high school and stuff like that. And when he got the opportunity, he took advantage of it.
He gives me energy. It's nobody worth more playing for and being a part of this legacy than Freddie Steinmark.
He did a lot of things to help his team win, and he was a fighter. And he did anything he could to help his teammates, and he was his brother's keeper.
He represents, the courage and the fight you need to have success. He was diagnosed with bone cancer, lost his leg, then eventually lost his life, but was a tremendous competitor. And no matter what the odds are, you have to continue to be courageous.
We complain about a lot of things, and here is a guy, Freddie Steinmark, who complains about nothing, loses a leg, and still has that fire in him.
Play with that passion. Play like he did. Give it all up like he was doing for the program, and to really have that for Texas.
Every day when we run out the tunnel, we touch the pillar that's dedicated to him to remind us that we need to be strong and we need to play hard, like he would have played every day.
Everybody already knows you walk by that pillar every day, you got to touch that, and just pay your respects and know that every day you're trying to be like Freddie.
Every time I pass it, I make sure to touch it, and from time to time I just stop and look at it, and I've done that multiple times. It's definitely something we take pride in. It's a great story, and when you have a guy who went through everything that he did and the love that he showed for the university and the fight he had to go through to get here and to play for the team, it's a beautiful thing. And, it's an honor to be able to have that on the back of our helmets representing him.
And the story of Freddie Steinmark will reach a national audience on Friday with the release of My All-American. VY had an opportunity to share this story with his friends, the neighborhood Longhorns, on Wednesday, and this is a fantastic movie that kids will love as well. A little earlier today, Jane Slater caught up with the director, Angelo Pisani.
Angelo, why did you want to tell this story?
I'm only attracted to films, to stories where I'm personally, emotionally connected to, and this one, I read the book, and when we got to what is in the movie, the last 15 minutes, tears started to roll down my cheeks, and that's never happened reading a book that I can remember. And I thought if I could capture that on the screen, it would provide an emotional experience for an audience, and that's what I aspire to do.
You worked with so many people that were around during that era and knew Freddie Steinmark. What did you learn about him as a person after making this film?
My biggest challenge was to find a flaw in Freddie, because as a dramatist, you look for flaws in your protagonist, but there wasn't any. He impacted everybody he came in contact with and changed other people's lives, not by just his example and not just by his fortitude, his courage, his steadfastness, but his humility and his selflessness.
What message do you hope resonates with the audiences who see this movie?
To be like Freddie. One of the reasons that Bud Brigham helped finance this movie is because he wanted an authentic, real role model for young men and women, someone that they could emulate. And I think that we could all emulate him, whatever our ages. The one thing that I connected to with Freddie is we all go through times in our lives where we have to draw on a place of courage and overcome fear. And that's what Freddie was from start to finish.
You wrote and produced great films like Hoosiers and Rudy. How did making My All-American compare to those?
There was no comparison because I got to direct this one. And all of them are different, and people have asked me that question. Yeah, they have the same DNA, but it's like raising children. They have different personalities. Working in Texas, working with the players and working with everybody involved, created a possibility of telling a true story and not based on a true story. Rudy was probably 75% true. This is probably 90% true because there are so many people who are invested in getting it right, and that was including myself. And Hoosiers was honestly not even a true story. That was fictional.
I'll look forward to seeing this story when it hits up in theaters. Guys, back to you.
Well, with the release of My All-American on Friday, you will get to learn about Freddie Steinmark, and you will also get to learn about our guest right now, Bobby Mitchell, high school teammate of Freddie Steinmark in Colorado, and also played ball here with Freddie at the University of Texas. What does it mean to you and your teammates here, the fact that now Freddie's story is going to be told to a national audience?
Well, first of all, the biggest tribute is to the Steinmark family, and when they had the rededication of the scoreboard earlier today, we all were like a big family, and we were so proud of Freddie, and I was especially proud of the university that would recognize the legacy of Freddie Steinmark and his impact on the war on cancer, and that he was also, his story helped influence the signing of the National Cancer Act in 1971. So this has just been a great opportunity for all of her teammates to get together and be a part of Steinmark family.
How did your relationship with Freddie change your life?
Well, Freddie, he helped. We were both in high school together. We were recruited by Darryl Royal, and when we were roommates for 3 years, and we lived in the athletic dorm, and my parents couldn't afford for me to visit them or them come to visit me, so Freddie was more like my family, and that period was filled with a lot of triumphs and a lot of tragedies at that time. And when I lost my brother, he was a helicopter pilot in Vietnam. Freddie was my family, and without him, I don't think I could have made it. So he had a huge impact on my life.
And that moment is detailed in the movie, where we see yourself on the silver screen breaking down in a very emotional part of the movie, and Freddie is there for you. What was that like, reliving that and watching that happen in movie form?
It was extremely emotional, because we had squashed all those feelings, a lot of those feelings, for so many years. There was a lot of things going on at that time. You know, we were, it was in the height of the Vietnam War, and there was a lot of campus unrest. The draft lottery was done 6 days before we played the national championship game, and so we were all worried about where our draft number was going to be and if we were going to have to go to Vietnam. So we win the national championship, and then 6 days after that, they diagnosed Freddie's cancer, and they amputated his leg. A few weeks after that, we're playing Notre Dame again for the national championship, and here's Freddie walking onto the stadium on crutches and one leg. And so that period was just, there was so much emotion up and down that we were kind of in a daze a lot of the times. And so when you squash that, there's a lot of that down, you just get through it all, because we're all trying to get through school and play football. And then all of a sudden, 40 years later, you see it in a different perspective. You know, you can, and you just really sometimes wonder, does that really happen? And there were so many things happening at that time in such a short period of time. And, you know, we're 19, 20 years old at the time. Yeah. So, it was very emotional.
How off guard was the team when Freddie went into the locker room and made his return at the Cotton Bowl?
Really caught all of us completely off guard, because Freddie had complained about a pain in his leg, and he would rub it in our room at night, and I would see him. He would go down to the training at the athletic center and the training room, but he didn't want to say anything because he didn't want to miss out on the championship game. So he kept just fighting through the pain, and we were all surprised, because a lot of the players at that level, and as you all know, play with a lot of injuries, and you play with pain, and so that was just a way things were. So no one really thought at the time that it would be anything like that. It was such a rare, that osteosarcoma is such a rare cancer, and no one would even begin to believe. And so we would all look and say, well, why didn't Freddie know something sooner? Why didn't we? Because, and it really wasn't unusual, because everybody had aches and pains. So it was took everybody by surprise, totally.
We hear now, play like Freddie. You can really say live like Freddie as well. What do those words mean to you? How can people do that?
Well, Freddie, when I think of Freddie, when his he played with a lot of grit. He also, at the same time, no matter how tough he was on the field, he lived by the golden rule, and he would always do to other people the way they'd want to be treated. He also had a great attitude, and he knew that life was not fair, and so he still had a very grateful attitude. He had a strong faith, and he was very appreciative of everything positive in his life. And so you hear about life is, 90, the 10% what happens to you, and 90% how you react to it. Yeah. And he always had that grateful attitude, is positive. And of course, you can go on and on about him being courageous and persevering through all that. But he never did. He had such a good heart, and but I think he had such a strong faith. He would get on his knees in our room in the dorm, and he didn't care who was in the room. How many people were in there. When it was time to go to bed, he would get on his knees and pray, and that's just that's when he helped me a lot when I lost my brother, and I was wandering all over campus and kind of in a daze when I found out my brother had been killed, and he found me and brought me back to the dorm, and we talked in the night for hours, and he would pray for me and the family, and that's why his faith got me through. His friendship got me through a lot of things.
Well, Bobby, thank you so much for sharing your story, and we do appreciate your time. It's a fantastic honor to see all of you wearing that number 28 jersey.